an airplane, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I have a hurricane, listen to yourself, churn, world serves its own needs. Dummy, serve your own needs, beat it up an ox, beat, grunt, no strength. The ladder starts to clatter with fear, fight down, high wire and a fire, representing 7 games in a government for hire and a combat site. Left to us are coming in a hurry with the furies breathing down your neck. My team reporters babble Trump, tethered crop, look at that, no plane, fine, then, overflow, population common food, but it'll do, save yourself, serve yourself, world serves its own needs, listen to your heartbeat, dummy with the rapture and the reverend and the right, you patriotic, slam, fight, right, like feeling, pretty sight. It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. 6 o'clock, TV hour, don't get caught in foreign tower, slice and burn, return, listen to yourself churn, lock it in, uniform and book, burning blood, letting every motive escalate, automotive incinerate, light a candle, light a motor, step down, watch your heel crush, this means no fear, cavalier, renegade, steer clear, tournament of lies, offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline. It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Drifted by mountain, sit in a line, Leonard Bernstein, Leonard Brezhnev, Lenny Bruce and Lester Banks, birthday party, cheesecake, jelly bean, boom.
Hi, welcome to episode 2 of Watch the World Fade Away. Today we're going immigration, but this is going to cover a lot of other things of everything that's transpired throughout our nation and why it's important for us not to vote for the person that's been in office for the next 4 years. It's going to cause more problems if she wins. So this is going to be my other proof on that part of it. So here we go. We'll see how it goes.
Has opened up a wide lead in the betting markets, bigger than I thought possible. Plus, Barstool founder Dave Portnoy is out with an epic takedown of Kamala Harris, and our own Harris Faulkner will join us with an exclusive preview of her town hall with former President Trump. That'll air tomorrow right here on the Fox News channel. But we begin with something different tonight. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Not deep meditation, maybe deep prayer if you want. But try to imagine something actually pretty horrible. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, this time next year, president and vice president in the White House. Because here's a preview of what life would be like in America, especially if they were to pass their very radical and extreme agenda, like the Green New Deal. First, government spending and inflation will be worse than anything you have ever seen. Kamala has made a lot of promises with your money. This is interesting. That includes more than $1 trillion in so-called student loan forgiveness, $25,000 to first-time home buyers, and that is only the beginning. And then
now I'm going to ask, what's that going to have to do with us, her spending that much money? That's more money she spent. It's not the same thing as they're sending it across seas too at the same time. Here's the other thing I wanted to show before we even get into the immigrants part. The number of immigrants at the U.S. border, the total number of encounters by U.S. Customs and Border Protection from you see, in between January 2018 2020, it was low. We didn't have many coming through or nothing like that. But as you see, Biden started 2022 to 2024, it's going up, 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 up. That's the 3,000 mark. Has it hit there? Yes, it has. One time. Throughout this year, it's hit that one time. But it's still going back down now. But it might go back up again. You never know. But still, this is the problem. This is the problem we face every day. It's never going to change if we don't do nothing about it. I mean, look at this. I mean, most common citizenships of migrants encountered at the border October 23 to October 24. Mexico, it's 60,000. Venezuela, over 200,000. Guatemala, Cuba, Honduras, Colombia, Ecuador. I mean, I think these are people that probably came to the U.S. I mean, probably got in the U.S. illegally, in a way. But this guy right here, these guys right here is what we're looking for. This, and this. And some of these, they can actually get in and infiltrate your computers and stuff and hack the grid if they're within range, I guess. So that's a cyber threat could be possible. So that's what I look out for. But here we go with the rest of the show. We're going to see what he talks about. And throughout the thing, if he makes a point, I'm going to point it out. All right, and here we go.
And yesterday, because of the polls where she's lagging in terms of demographically African-American men in this country, she announced another $20 billion in forgivable loans to African-Americans to be handed out on the basis of race. And today, while speaking with Charlemagne the God, well, Kamala promised to consider a multi-trillion-dollar reparations plan. Take a listen.
I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position.
Now, she said this in the past. Nobody's ever asked her before. There is no amount of your money that Kamala will not spend to win a few votes. And, of course, the Harris campaign is also promising to sweeten the deal with a different kind of green, if you will. As the New York Post put it, quote, Kamala Harris urging African-American men to vote for her to legalize weed despite convicting herself 1,900 people as DA. And as we have reported from day one, Kamala Harris is the single most radical extreme candidate to ever run for president as a major party nominee. So expect to see a lot more stories like this one. Pay close attention. Transgender yacht killer serving a life sentence gets a taxpayer-funded sex change surgery thanks to Kamala Harris. This is not a made-up story. It is not AI generated. It is not fake news. It is not a cheap fake. This murderer killed two grandparents on their boat by tying them to the vessel's anchor, throwing them overboard before, quote, grabbing a beer from the fridge and starting to fish. And according to court records, this was all part of an elaborate scheme to steal and launder enough money to pay for a sex change operation. And thanks to the policies set by Kamala Harris, she said it in her own words on tape, and we know she's out there taking this position for many years. During her time as California's AG, this killer's wish was in fact granted after murdering two people. According to a letter obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, this convicted killer claimed, quote, I did receive gender-affirming surgery and breast augmentation on April the 5th, 2023. Compliments of California taxpayers, of course. But not only has Kamala Harris supported taxpayer-funded sex change operations for inmates, but she also supports taxpayer-funded money going to sex change operations for the 12.5 million unvetted illegal immigrants from over 180 countries, many with terror ties, many with criminal backgrounds, many of our top geopolitical foes. This would be the very definition of madness. Never mind California, Minnesota, being okay with gender-affirming care for minors without parental consent. Have they ever heard of parental rights? And a brand new Trump campaign ad points this out. It is so insane, it's almost Hard to believe, but it's real. Take a look. How about we just enforce the immigration laws and secure the border, and if you murder two people, you don't get a taxpayer-funded sex change operation. Seems pretty simple, seems pretty logical, right? Well, apparently it was just too difficult for the border czar, allowed these millions and millions of unvetted illegals into our country, including known terrorists, but we don't know where they are, and people that were known murderers. And look at all the dozens of Americans murdered, dozens of Americans, including children, raped, hundreds of Americans victims of violent crime. We have allowed gang members, drug cartels into the country. And as I said, people with terror ties from countries like Iran and Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Venezuela, China, and Russia. In Boston, ICE detained an illegal alien who was previously convicted of trafficking fentanyl, deported under Donald Trump. Guess what? He came right back into the country under Harris and Biden, was arrested for trafficking, more fentanyl, carjacking, and assault with a dangerous weapon. And right here in the free state of Florida, 3 Biden-Harris unvetted illegals, they were just arrested for sexually assaulting a child. They also crossed over from the wide-open southern border.
I remember that story. I seen that story. I need to find it one day. I'll show it on a show one day of that happening. It was a kid, and he was walking home. He was like on the corner and stuff, and these guys just grouped up on him and just killed him, pretty much, just beat him up. And that's what we let into this country, thanks to Obama, thanks to Kamala Harris and Biden. But still, let's see what happens.
Border of your border czar, Kamala Harris. And if Kamala gets elected, this crisis, you can bet, will get worse. Border Patrol officers,
He ain't wrong about that one.
they are now reportedly planning to quit in droves if Kamala wins. Look at these quotes from some of these people that work on the border in the New York Post. I'm not doing this bleep again. 4 years of hell, said one agent who's nowhere near retirement. Another agent saying lots of guys who can retire, they will go if Trump, and if Trump wins, they're going to stay. What does that say? They want the support of the American people to do the job they were hired to do. After all, what is the point of having a border patrol if there's no borders and they're wide open? Now, these are serious issues that are, frankly, national security issues at this point. If we have known terrorists in the country and murderers and rapists and other criminals and drug cartels and gang members, and the American people have every right to be worried about all of it. There should not be a single apartment complex, Martha Raddatz, not one, taken over by Venezuelan gangs. And maybe somebody can help Martha do a little research and maybe ask Kamala Harris what she would say to the families of Laken Riley and Rachel Morin, the mother of 5, and little 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary, and the others murdered by alleged unvetted Harris Biden illegals. There shouldn't be a single convicted killer terrorist.
She'd probably do this.
Or any such person in this country that is not vetted. There shouldn't be allowed into our country, let alone thousands. The American people deserve real solutions to the very real crisis that are impacting small towns and big cities across the country. Instead, the Harris campaign has been rolling out cheap gimmicks, taxpayer-funded, well, where I grew up, they'd call it bribery, but I would never use that word. And Kamala's weird running mate, of course, assistant volunteer coach that claims to be the coach, Tim Walz. And after spending the weekend pretending to hunt pheasants with a shotgun that he was having a very hard time loading, well, today Tim Walz stepped up to the podium in a crisp new flannel shirt, accused J.D. Vance of faking his real life story.
Here's the thing I got about this guy. This guy right here, he gets on J.D. Vance and stuff like that. I thought if you're running for something, you go up there and you explain yourself. You give us ideas of what you're going to be like if you're to vice president and stuff like that. They're not talking shit about somebody else. I mean, you're trying to get somebody to vote for you, right? I don't guess this guy has learned that. But here's the thing about it is, here's what he's going to have to say about J.D. Vance. And of course, everything he said is bullshit, but we'll see.
Take a look.
Senator Vance, he became a media darling. He wrote a book about the place he grew up, but the premise was trashing that place where he grew up. rather than lifting it up. This guy's a venture capitalist cosplaying like he's a cowboy or something. I don't even know what a venture capitalist does most of the time, because folks who go to work every day, they're the ones that are saying, what are you going to do with the policies to make my life a little better?
You don't know what a venture capitalist does. You have no business being the vice president. Now, keep in mind, as a young man, Tim Walz spent a lot of time, well, gallivanting around communist China. And meanwhile, after growing up poor and a single mother struggling with addiction, well, J.D. Vance, he enlisted in the U.S. Marines. He was deployed to Iraq. But unlike Tim Walz, he didn't lie about his rank. He didn't falsely claim valor that he didn't deserve and claim he fought in a war zone. He actually did. Vance used his service to help pay for college, ultimately law school at Yale. He was then successful in business, got into politics, and like so many other Americans, he is living the American dream, starting really at the bottom, which apparently makes Tim Walz very angry and jealous. And luckily, in 3 weeks, you can reject, and only you can reject. I'm only one vote. You can reject in Georgia, North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, in the great state of Nevada. You can reject the insane policies, the utter incompetence that Walz and Harris represent.
If not, you'll be getting this.
Here with reaction, Project 21 Chairman Horace Cooper, former senior advisor to President Trump, Stephen Miller, Fox News contributor Kellyanne Conway. All right, Kellyanne, 3 weeks from tonight, it is election.
Here's a scenario for you. With all these migrants, you don't know who Harris is. They're probably hiding somewhere waiting to get a good spot. You're in a shopping mall one day, and you hear all that commotion, and all of a sudden you hear a bunch of people running around, and then you hear this. Can't be realistic, but that's what's going to happen if we keep on letting this happen, because our blind side is really blinded. I'm telling you, because you'll be hearing this again. In schools, in malls, everywhere else, you'll be hearing this. And you wouldn't be able to do anything, because you put down a plan for that. But here we go.
Election night in America. It's game time. And where do you see the race right now?
Donald Trump is winning, and he has an opportunity to have what I call a narrow landslide, meaning he can actually run the tables and win all 7 swing states. He can win them narrowly, but they're winner take all because it's the Electoral College. Why? He's barnstorming and blitzing those swing states. He's going to the 22 counties or so where this race will be decided, and he feels confident enough in his running mate, J.D. Vance, to go have his own separate schedule. So they are double teaming these swing states. And then Trump's doing smart things like going to iconic venues, Madison Square Garden, Coachella, California. Why is he there? The media are asking. Those aren't swing states. Because he's Donald Trump and he can fill up those venues and inspire people. The other thing that's going on is the left has no compelling message, no convincing, persuasive messenger, and they have a lot of money. Money in politics is distortive. It makes the Harris campaign think that she doesn't have to be that good and she can still win. So what started out, Sean, as penetrating the voters with ads penetration has become saturation and is on its way to inundation. That angers the voters. They stop getting upset about the subject matter of your ads and they start getting mad at the sponsor of the ads. 2 quick statistics that tell the tale here. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton both won 93% of the female black vote. Kamala Harris, a black woman, is at 71%. 18 to 44-year-old black men, Barack Obama had 81% in November of 2012. Kamala Harris has 41%. She has 1/2 the number that Barack Obama had. So how does she make that up among non-college educated households, among white households that don't say abortion is their top 1 or 2 issue? How does she make that? She's bleeding out among union households, younger people. And I'm going to say blacks, Hispanics, and also Jewish voters. I'm mentioning to you groups that Donald Trump does not need to get anywhere near 50% to become the next president. I think he's in a great position to go right through far beyond 300 electoral votes. And the last thing I want to say is the registration numbers are incredible. Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, the Republicans have really caught up. The whole get out the vote, voter education, early voting, all of those investments are paying off now. That's how you win this stuff. Tactical trench warfare.
Let me ask you, Horace, if I can. I think Kamala's been horrible in these interviews, and she wants to promise, student loan forgiveness to those stupid 18 to 24-year-old kids that live in dormitories that she had talked about in the past. But now she wants to give $25,000 down payments. Now she's offering programs just to African Americans. She's not doing well, as Kellyanne was pointing out, demographically with African American men. So she sends out Barack Obama. That didn't work particularly well. He came off as somewhat condescending, accusing African American men perhaps of being sexist in their thinking. And now she's offering all of these programs. Reparations she will examine, she said earlier today. It didn't work out with Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, a huge controversy. Was she making fun or mocking Christians and Catholics? Obama didn't work out particularly well. Bill Clinton even went as far as to say that Laken Riley, had we had vetting at the border, would likely be alive today. I don't think that was particularly helpful. So I don't see that her surrogates are helping her that much either.
Looks like she's losing.
Last year, my book came out, Put Y'all Back in Chains, in which I predicted that Black America was sick and tired of the hoax plan. The latest hoax is apparently we're going to give $1 trillion+ in payments, calling it reparations. There is no scenario where some kind of grant of hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million per person is ever actually going to happen. Black Americans have realized this, and that is the reason why so many Black Americans are asking for basic answers. What are you going to do about inflation? What are you going to do about the crime problem? And what are you going to do about our country being overwhelmed by immigrants that are not supposed to be in this country, taking school resources and other social services that actual American taxpayers have provided for? Disproportionately, these radical policies harm Black Americans. Now, I grew up in Texas, where we have had the death penalty, where we hold people accountable. My brother was a corrections officer on death row. We know firsthand that there must absolutely be accountability. What we're recently learning here looks like Willie Horton 2024. When you see a candidate advocating benefits like a sex change operation for a brutal killer, they ought to be already buried under the gel, but apparently the progressive answer is just the opposite. Black Americans in particular, as well as most of America, find these radical policies not to their liking, not something that they can embrace. And one last point. In 2020, Black Americans, people often think Black Americans must be liberal because so many are registered as Democrats. Black Americans are moderates and centrists by and large. And they picked Joe Biden because there were so many crazies that were running. And there has been a huge level of disappointment that he ended up embracing all of the radical policies that Black America rejects.
You know, Stephen, you look at the insanity of this convicted murderer, sex change operation out in California, courtesy of taxpayer money, thanks to Kamala Harris. Then you look at her position on the border, and you can look at her new Green Deal position. You can look at eliminating health care. You can look at mandatory gun buybacks. You can look at defund, dismantle, no bail laws. But this one in particular, decriminalize illegal immigration, free food, housing, health care, education. You include Tim Walz. That would include college education, legal driver's licenses, sex change operations. And then a path to citizenship, earned path they call it. That would be called amnesty where I'm from. 12.5 million people, including members of drug cartels, gang members. We have Americans that have been murdered, raped. We have Americans victims of violent crime. It's costing the country billions of dollars. do people understand how bad this has gotten and what a national security threat this is? We have known terrorists now in the country. They know about them, but they don't know where they are. And they pay for sex change operations if they want them.
Well, this is why Donald Trump is now leading in the polls. This is why Donald Trump is pulling ahead in this race, because he's been going around the country making all of these arguments, laying out all these facts, like you just said. He went to Aurora, Colorado, and gave a speech for the ages documenting in painstaking detail how Kamala Harris imported a ruthless criminal syndicate from Venezuela into their community, taking over their parks, taking over their schools, taking over entire apartment complexes. As you mentioned, now we have this case where a convicted murderer is getting a free taxpayer-funded sex change operation. This is madness. This is beyond anything we've seen in the history of American politics. Then she wants to give illegal aliens free housing, free welfare, free transportation, free everything, free education, free lifetime Medicare and Social Security retirement benefits, and of course full voting and citizenship rights. And on top of all of that, one crime after another committed by these criminal migrants, including this new case of 3 illegals that she released who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old. The amount of suffering and blood and misery on her hands is totally disqualifying. As Donald Trump has said, anyone who would lead an invasion of their own country cannot run to be president of that country. You add to it the Green New Deal, you add to it the largest proposed tax hike in history, you add to it a pledge to massively increase regulations on every single sector of the economy, grinding growth to a halt. You have a full-on communist that is running for president, who, by the way, also has pledged to abolish private health care and abolish fracking. America must and will reject this insanity.
Do you think, I'll ask an exit question, do you think it is now penetrated into the consciousness of the American people how radical and extreme she is? 30 seconds each, starting with you, Kellyanne.
We knew since Biden been in.
Yes, and she made a big mistake just not being part of the Biden-Harris agenda and saying the only change is really me, my age, my gender, my race, my generation. She's trying too hard to change her position because she knows this country is now looking for border security, doesn't want all these wars abroad, wants the economic prosperity of the Trump times. So Donald Trump has recast the Republican Party as the party of the worker, as the party of conservative values, as it's the party, he said today, of common sense, but he's having an effect on the Democratic Party too. They're all running away from woke. You don't even recognize 2020 now. 2024, they're trying to sound more like Trump and the Republicans.
Yeah. What do you think, Horace?
What we're seeing is a clear and total rejection of these radical so-called progressive values. And you can see it. I believe black Americans are the canary in the coal mine. We're going to see the single largest in my lifetime rejection by black Americans of a party that they've been affiliated with for my entire life.
Wow.
And it's precisely because these policies are so far out of the mainstream.
Last word, Steve Miller.
Yes, this is finally sinking in with the American people. It's why you're receiving so much movement in the polls, because President Trump's been out there every day in his podcasts, in his TV interviews, in his radio interviews, in his speeches, documenting all of these terrifying facts about her record. And that is why I believe you are going to see not just a record number of black Americans that are going to be supporting Donald Trump, record minority support, and you're also going to see, as Kellyanne said, you're going to see massive victories across all the battlegrounds on election days.
All right. We appreciate you all. Stephen, thank you. Kellyanne, thank you. And Horace, always good to see you as well. When we come back, Barstool's Dave Portnoy goes off on Kamala Harris in a viral rant. We're going to show you what he said. Also, Donald Trump takes a commanding lead over Kamala in the betting. Viral video posted on Sunday. Barstool's Dave Portnoy unloaded on Kamala Harris, calling her the worst presidential candidate ever, while also slamming the left for their gaslighting over her candidacy. Take a look.
It's the gaslighting that the left is doing with Kamala Harris, making it sound like she's some great, groundbreaking candidate. She is.
This does make it part of the episode anyway, and I don't make them really long, so it's 42 minutes on this one, so I'm doing a 20-minute show. So the whole thing I did cover was it is the immigration that's going to cause us the problem anyway, even though we could get out of it in any time we want to, but it just takes a vote. It takes a vote, I'm telling you. And if you want to watch this, go to Fox News and look this episode up. But it's pretty much, we went through what we had to go through on this part of the screening. I was trying to prove a point, and I did. I proved a lot of points, and especially when I went back to this, and I went to show this graph. Now, when I'm on this graph, I'm always looking at numbers. But this is, like I said, I mean, we've had so many people come over here, and most of them are Mexico. But I don't know. Cartel could be part of this too. That could be terrorist. Venezuela. I mean, there's a possibility a lot of them. And I don't know about Cuba, Colombia, and Ecuador. Haiti, yeah, I watched them too. China, not so much because they're less, really. I mean, but they still cyber hack. I mean, with only a few in the United States, they can hack your computers, hack your bank accounts, and take all your money. But I don't think this is a threat right now. I think our threat is this, and a little bit of this, I think. But other than that, it's been a good show, and I'll see you on the next episode. All right, and have a good night.